have to cue him to stop playing with the dog.
We're all set.
Okay, so it's 6:01. This is February 10th, Rules and Policies meeting. The first order of business is to call the roll. So I'll just do that. I'm Betsy Gleisine, I'm the chair. We also have John Anderson and Councilor Clucci here, as well as our town clerk, Tony Justice, and our assistant town manager, Liam Gallagher. The next order of business is to approve the approval of minutes. And I think we have two different sets of minutes to approve. Is that right?
Yes, December 8th and January 12th.
Right. We've got January 12th, right. And then December 8th. And then in December, it said we didn't have September 10th meeting minutes were not available. So I'm not sure, did we catch up on that at some point?
I believe we did at the last meeting.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So, yep. So that's right in our minutes from this time. So, okay. So did folks have a chance to go into the shared directory and take a look at those? And the ones from the 8th were quite simple, but the other ones were a little more detailed. So thank you very much for doing that. Those were great minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
I'll just call the roll. Betsy Gleisine, I approve. Councilor Clucci?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson?
Yes.
All right, that's unanimous. All right, so the next order of business is hopefully Liam can share the screen with everyone. And we've been, Tody's been working to kind of clean up the organization of the important town documents. And so I thought we would just we discussed it in a meeting, and I thought we'd take some time to take a look at it.
I pretty much just tried to organize by, I broke them down into the categories of administrative policies, the council policies, financial policies, and public policies, those that are like the sign for holiday signs. And then I know at one of the meetings they were talking about repealed policies. So I also did a repealed policy subtitle, as well as council resolutions and proclamations. I've not populated that as yet. I wasn't sure how far back this committee wanted to go. But if you click on administrative policies, it will show you what is listed there. It takes a few, there you go. So these are what we follow for administration. And then under council policies, it's obviously policies that are for the council with regards to travel, disposition of town-owned property, the legal service, and correspondence, council correspondence. And then under financial policies, that is, I think, it has the credit enhancement policy, which I believe was a concern with some of you that hadn't been posted there yet. And then the financial and fiscal policy, the public safety building capital improvement account policy, and the tax acquired property policy. And of course, the repeal policy were, it's self-explanatory. It's any policies that have been repealed, and I believe there are 2 listed underneath that as well. And it gives a comment when it was repealed and it was incorporated into the financial and physical policy by the town council on September 5th. So I guess I'm just looking for guidance as to if this is what you're looking for, and if I need to tweak something, then I can certainly do that. And Brian, our webmaster, has been really helpful in pulling all this together with me. So
could I ask a quick question? So
sure.
The tax acquired, is that the sale of town-owned property?
Yes. Right here.
I think, just to answer your question, I think this is great. I think it's, from where it was before to where it is now, it seems much cleaner. One thing I noticed when Liam was clicking around was it looked like there was 103.2 missing. And so I don't know if that's just
Okay.
something that wasn't uploaded or maybe the numbering's off.
The numbering, I'll
Repealed?
double check that.
I think there may be one about selling town property. It calls for a public hearing.
I want to say, can you keep scrolling, Liam?
I think this is it.
I believe it is. It's just in a different section.
Okay,
Review and disposition of tax acquired.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that there's a process that the town has to follow in order to be able to sell.
okay.
Yeah.
So this is great. This is nothing that isn't something we've already done, but when I kept working on this and I kept wondering why I get so confused when we start going through these. So we have 100, which is town council adopted policies and resolutions. And then we have 300, which is administration. So if you click on administration, 302 is actually council rules and policies, and 302A is town committee boards. So it almost feels like that those should be 100 level policies, but I kept wondering why do I always have such a hard time kind of navigating to those policies? And then because the rest of these are really administration in a way, purchasing, personnel. Now, the political sign ordinance, I would almost say, might be a public policy. So
Well, if you click on that, I believe it states that it's repealed. It should be, because it's now incorporated into 405, zoning ordinance 405. So
So
that
one.
should be repealed.
yeah, so those are
Yeah,
bad.
so that's what it says.
I just wondered, historically how 302 and 302A kind of ended up under administration instead of under 100 town council adopted policies.
Truthfully, it's always, I believe it's considered an ordinance. Maybe the title needs to be redone and put in as an ordinance, because it does take three meetings in order to amend it.
Okay.
So maybe it's just a matter of changing the title of it,
And I
as
think
well
that-
as the other piece, the 302A.
Right.
I
It might
think the protection there, Betsy, is if, you want to change the operating parameters that the council works around, you shouldn't be able to do it on the spot at a meeting and then start abiding by the new principles. I think having it have to go through that, public hearing and 2 meeting process.
Yeah. I wasn't saying we should
Makes
do that. I'm just saying it's located under administration because of its number, 300. And it's really a town council adopted, rules and
Ordinance.
policies. So, yeah, so if it's called out as an ordinance, that would definitely help. And then under 100, under town council adopted policies and resolutions, I wonder if we could just have a pointer to say, town council rules C302, committee rules C302A or something, so that would point back to this. Because if I was looking for where the town council policies are, how they manage themselves, I might go look under 100. So I don't know, it's just a thought. It's not critical. It's just, I've always struggled with, wait a minute, why is there, there's overlap here. It's kind of hard to
I can work on that, see what we can do.
just a thought. It's not a high
Yep.
priority by any stretch of the imagination.
So, I've been poking around other town websites a little bit, and a lot of them use this platform for searching, town ordinances and for archiving them. And I kind of like what we do better. It half dozen one type of thing. But have we evaluated using other software or other mechanisms for storing?
Ratification?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have, and it's the cost. It's quite expensive to have all the ordinances codified. Because what that program does is cross-reference
Yes.
ordinances. And I think the last quote I got, and that was about 2 years ago, was almost between $25,000 and $30,000.
Per year or one-time fee?
Well, it was a one-time fee, and then the annual fee, I think, was close to 12. So, yeah.
At the end of the day, once you get to know ours, it's kind of nice. And same thing with like meeting packets. You know, they break up the meeting packets into small chunks by order or item number. That's actually tricky if you're trying to get, if you want to just read through the whole thing. You have to do it online. You can't really print it. So, all right. I just wanted to understand that.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much for showing this to us and for putting the time in.
Okay.
I think one of the other questions was, so then what is the equivalent hard copy of this if, something were to get lost or electronic, or is it like a file system that's kind of equivalent to this, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a safe for that stuff, Tony? Or
It's in the vault.
there's a vault? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Does anybody
Welcome.
else have any other input or question on it, or?
Nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, so the second agenda item, we had a long meeting before, so I'm not looking to spend a ton of time on this right now, but just to kind of introduce the topic a little bit. I thought at some point we may want to talk about recordings, so Tony helped me look through, and I dug through what we have, how the recordings work. And if you haven't read it in a while, it's in our rules and policies. And I thought I printed it out, but I'm having a little tough time seeing it, finding it. It's 1050 in chapter 302, council rules and policies. And I think part of this might just end up being also, do we want to make this language more generic as, to kind of cover technology? But Liam's bringing it up, so I won't read it aloud, but this is pretty much the sum total of our guidance on recording.
So finance and council committee meetings need to be televised. Otherwise, it's at the discretion of the chair.
And legislative, I think, refers to the planning board and the zoning board. Is that how you'd read that, Tody?
Yes, because they're implementing the policies, the legislative policies that the council has set forth for the town.
And that's not required by state law, is my understanding. But it is our policy. So more than a policy, is our ordinance, I guess, as we were saying. Yeah, and so recently, because of all the Zoom, I contacted someone and said, oh, can you help me find the link to that? I'd love to watch it. And somebody said, well, the chair did not want the meeting recorded. So, and that's goes directly by our policy. But I just wanted to throw out, the idea of, is there something that we want to do on this to, televised and taped, or kind of old fashioned words now? I don't know if there's, some language that we might want to change around that. And I know I had particular interest in adding to this list the long range planning committee, because I feel like it's along with the council, the planning board and the zoning board, it's one of the most foundational, in the ordinance committee that gets recorded. The long range planning is one of the most foundational groups. So I just got it out there for a discussion. And then would you guys, are we interested in talking about virtual, the Zoom meetings at all? We've kind of gotten spoiled with all these meetings now that we can record. Is this something that we want to look at going forward? There may be tech challenges, or do we always want to have a hybrid going or something like that?
John, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was saying as somebody who's new, and as like a lot of times when I read the agenda packets and things, it's always like, well, refer to this meeting or that. And if you're saying the long range planning committee is not recorded, which is news to me.
Well, they
You know, I
are
think-
now, but they were not before COVID.
Oh, okay. And is the only reason they are now is because we have the technology and the capability to do it?
Yes.
But if once we get back to normal where people are meeting in person, are those meetings going to continue to be recorded and aired?
That's what I was suggesting that we may want to consider. It becomes a matter of resources to do it, and where they meet and things like that, like every other meeting that we record. But
There's a lot of committees that are now, due to the pandemic, are meeting via Zoom. So, which they would normally not. They would meet in person, but
Mhm.
in order to conduct their business. And there's a cost associated with when we go back to our normal routine, there is an added cost because you have to have the cable present to man the cameras. And so I think that was another factor that, and not only that, they're not really making decisions they're making recommendations to the council, who ultimately makes the decision as to whether it's implemented, whatever recommendations that are brought forward from any of these committees. Like the Shellfish Committee, they want to amend some of their ordinance. So they'll make the recommendation, it will go to ordinance committee, and then it will come to the whole council for final approval. But their meetings normally are not recorded. They are now because it's the only option we have in order to have them meet.
which one are you talking about, Tody?
This one's the Shellfish Committee.
Oh, Shellfish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's interesting. I mean, this meeting was never recorded,
Right.
the one we're in.
Yeah.
And we technically don't have to be recording, but we kind of started this policy where we did it. Yeah, long range. And the other consideration has been, John, physical space. Because as Tody mentioned, when you do record, you kind of need the chamber. Long range, if we're meeting in person or hybrid, long range had typically not met in there, but they did meet Fridays at 8:30. So there wasn't probably competition for the chamber at that time, but there ends up being competition for the chamber. But I think a lot of the public have expressed how much they really have appreciated this option. So we don't have to decide today, but I thought it was worth starting to think about, if we always wanted to provide this hybrid type thing, or, and legally the state has allowed us to do it now, but once the emergency order is over, unless the state changes the law, we're not even allowed to meet remotely, which seems insane, but is the reality of the state law. I think we have 30 days past the end of the emergency order to do it. So
I think it's timely that you brought this up, Betsy. We may want to challenge that. So there's kind of two components. One, the flexibility to participate remotely, I think is pretty important. And we used to get at that with televising them. But I think having it available via Zoom or YouTube is continuing that, even if the committee members might be in person, is something we should actually start thinking about, because there's a ton of benefits to it. On the other hand, we're kind of accustomed to being able to comfortably stick our foot in our mouth now, but a lot of people are uncomfortable in that situation. So when you're doing committee work, it's helpful to be able to speak freely without having the fear that this is going to get blasted on social media the next day or something. So making it available remotely is one thing, but whether it should be recorded and archived, I think is a different discussion. I think the way it's worded now probably isn't too far off. Whereas if you're making decisions for the town, then that's probably what you signed up for. It probably should be archived. But if you're circulating ideas and trying to brainstorm and think through things, then I would more lean towards, you don't need to record and archive that. Having it up to the chair probably makes sense too.
Well, it's interesting that, we are recording and archiving we did it by accident, right? We
Yeah.
just started doing it. And I think there's been some value in it, or a lot of value in it, actually. I look back at the community center committee, and there was some kind of conflict where I actually could not attend a lot of those meetings. And, you have the minutes, which are good, but sometimes when you want to dig in, just going back and watching is just a huge help. So, I mean, instead of it being, the chair necessarily, it's all going to depend on technology, but I would kind of say that we would do it, but if the chair did not want to do it, so if some committee members express some concern to their chair, we could just, the council could decide, or the chair, our chair could decide, council chair, because, so far, just most people have not minded, and they know what we're doing. And then there is the public, keeping the public updated, and the public, being able to listen to and participate in those discussions, or go back and listen to them on archive, especially, the other advantage I think it does is it is difficult for everyone to meet at night. But it's also difficult a lot of times for people to attend during the day, when they're working. And I know that's been a challenge on the Long Range Planning Committee, because they met Friday mornings, which is a time that worked for them. But you kind of cross that gap if you come up with, it's a compromise to say, okay, that's when they're going to meet. But if it's recorded, at least people, if you can't weigh in while you're right there, you can watch it and then weigh in, by email or something later. So there's several questions I've kind of put out here. One in particular to me is that Long Range Planning Committee. I think it's been of value having their meetings recorded. And like I say, to me, they're foundational to the town. I would love to go back and watch several of the comp plan meetings, but the comp plan meetings, they're not recorded. So it's just an example of something that I think, could be of help.
They're referenced in the charter specifically. So with long range planning, I don't necessarily disagree with you for that one. That's it. I
Right.
think they're a very important committee that has designated powers. So they probably should be. Shellfish.
Are they the only ones that's not captured by legislative and financial? Like, would it be just modifying 105.1 to add something in that would include any?
Charter defined committee. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, legislative, financial, and charter defined.
And given that the cost associated with televised, is Zoom an acceptable alternative to having it broadcast on cable? Yeah. Can we reword, or should we reword that? We should certainly do it for some meetings, but maybe not all.
So I think, Leah, maybe you can jump in here, but I think SCTV has been taking the YouTube and somehow capturing it for SCTV.
And Tony may know that I thought that I had heard that at one point that we were doing some simulcast or some recasting of things that were otherwise on Zoom and
That's
YouTube.
correct. Yes.
But they haven't, but clearly they haven't. So, I know the town worked on that special because we definitely do not want to give up SCTV, in my opinion, because a lot of people do tune into that. I don't have cable, but, people that don't like the internet at all. I know one particular woman who just leaves it on and listens to us all day. Whatever is on, she listens to us and all the committees that happen on there. I think the cost, would you say, Tody, is when they do it live, or?
I believe I believe the only things that are right now are the Board of Education, Planning Board, Zoning Board, and the Town Council that are, they're recorded, they're captured, and then replayed on our cable.
I've
The
seen
other committees,
sanitation
pardon me?
I've seen the sanitation board on
And the
SCTV.
yeah. But other than that, the other ones, like I guess you would say the other committees and boards that the town has, you can, and if they're being Zoom and on YouTube, you can get it on YouTube. But the ones that I just mentioned are captured and replayed on the cable.
So Betsy, your question about cost, yeah, in order for that live recording, it's staff time.
And are those staff that are existing and have other functions, or you call in staff special to do that?
Yeah, we have dedicated staff that handle that. There are camera operators. They're part-time staff.
Then what do they do when they're not?
We have one manager of that operation, which is part-time. He comes in and does some of the infrastructure work and will cover meetings. Otherwise, they are just camera board operators. That's all they do. So that would be, they would have likely been included for an extended period of time as being furloughed staff.
Oh, so they only get paid when they come and record. Oh, okay.
But when budget season happens and planning board is what it is, I mean, there's plenty of work. Almost
Right.
every night there's a 2 or 3 or 4 hour meeting. So
Right. And so we do, whenever anybody's live, we need them because they're recording from that back room there.
correct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't have a huge goal. I don't know if anybody, I just thought I would broach the subject and let folks, unless somebody wants to do something tonight, but just to start thinking about it, and especially this section. And if we even wanted to add something about Zoom, like you said, John, do we want to, maybe not put it in the policy, but make a recommendation to the council about continuing Zoom or something like that. So anyway, unless anybody has anything else on this right now, that was my goal, was just to kind of start the discussion on it and get the committee and staff thinking about it.
Timely.
My suggestion would be to table this and revisit when the executive order looks like it's going to be lifted, and then see what changes occurred with state statute that may allow for continued hybrid or remote meetings. And if that's the case, then maybe that becomes an easier lift.
That's a good idea. I'd probably, that might be too late to kind of, I'd like to be able to give the town a little more. I think it's going to be both, Liam. I totally agree with you. But if we said, for example, we wanted to change 105 to say legislative, financial, or charter defined committees, just so, that might be that's kind of a separate beast that we might want to
Sure.
take up. And then the other one, would just be, if we're thinking along the lines of, hey, like John Clucci said tonight, we're thinking along the lines of, boy, this has been a great tool, just so the tech staff could start thinking about it. What if we were all live? What would we do? Would we even try it? Or, that type of thing. So, so maybe we'll bring it back to talk specifically about 105.1 and maybe even take some action on that if you guys are open to that, and then maybe some questions or guidance out for other direction. How does that sound? And then table it beyond that till we know more. I totally agree with you. Does that work for John and John? Does that work for you guys?
I think it's timely to be thinking about. I don't have any specific actions that I think we need to force through or rush. So, yeah.
Okay, great.
I agree.
All right, well, the last agenda item.
That is something.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, John.
Sorry, I was just agreeing.
Okay, great, thank you. So the last agenda item was to discuss the formation of a cannabis advisory committee, or, John Anderson, did you have a specific name for it that you were?
No, it was just more to discuss, knowing that marijuana is complex, and I know we're doing stuff right now on it, specifically related to the odor, but even just thinking beyond that and all of the changes that are going to be happening legislatively likely over the next couple of years, making sure that we have a group who are astute to all the changes that are happening to inform the ordinance committee or other folks on changes we might want to make. Like I just see marijuana as an evolving industry within Maine and within our town, and even a lot of lessons learned, I think, from the first year that we've been allowing for marijuana, or having our ordinance for marijuana. And I just think, it's going to be a topic that's going to continue to pop up. So to me, it made sense that we would want to at least have a discussion around whether a committee would be the right thing to do. Should it be an ad hoc committee, or could it be a full committee? Or again, like I know in some people's minds, we just have a lot going on right now. So maybe now's not the time to actually have one. But I just think it's gonna continue to grow. And I guess the question is what's the best way to manage that as a council and as a town?
And yeah, I do think it's going to become a major business, just like Shellfish and the other committees that we have that are kind of impact commercial, enterprise in the town. If no one objects, this is a little bit out of order, and I'm not the best reader, but we did get a letter for the public. I don't know. John Anderson, would you like to read it? Or John Clucci? We did get a letter to read into the record from a resident, John Burke, who I think many of us know if you've been involved with the marijuana issue.
I can read it if you want someone to
I
read
actually
it.
didn't get the letter.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I got John's response, but looking at it now, I thought he was just endorsing support, but it looks like there may have been an attachment that I didn't get.
Okay. Yeah, I thought he sent it to all of us, but yeah. Did you get it, Liam, or?
I did not. Well, I received, I'm not sure which letter we're referencing. If it's the one that is the expansive letter on suggestions about the ordinance, is that the one we're speaking of from a number of months ago?
No, this is a brand new one. He couldn't attend the meeting tonight.
Oh, no, I have not seen that one.
Okay.
I was able to open the attachment. I can read it, Betsy, if you want me to.
Yeah, that would be good. I was just going to see if I can find it really quick if I downloaded it, and then I can fire it off to Liam and.
I got it.
Okay, can you fire it off to Liam and
Do
John?
you want to share your screen?
I can share my screen. I'll send it to you too again, John, so that you have it.
I apologize. I thought everyone got it. Sorry about that, John.
I got John's response, but I didn't get the initial or the attachment.
You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Do you want me to actually read it, or do you guys want to take a second to read it real quick?
If you don't mind, we could read it into the record. It's got some good points.
Okay. Dear counselors, unfortunately, I'm not able to attend Wednesday's meeting, but I wanted to offer my support in the creation of a cannabis advisory committee in Scarborough. Thank you, Councilor Anderson, for bringing this matter to the committee's attention. As each of you know, I have been an advocate for Scarborough's marijuana business community. As part of my advocacy, I encouraged the Ordinance Committee in 2019 to consider creating a cannabis advisory committee. I also did the same in my November 18th letter to the Town Council and to the Appointments and Negotiations Committee in early 2020. Legislature and the Office of Marijuana Policy will amend both, my internet connection's back, will amend both the medical and adult use program statutes and rules. In fact, there are already 27 bills being proposed for this current legislative session. 4 of the bills proposed are from the OMP. This does not include the proposed revamped medical marijuana program. With recent changes in Congress, it is possible the federal government is poised to decriminalize or legalize marijuana in the United States in 2021. As Councilor Anderson and I have suggested, the committee would advise the Town Council on any changes to existing cannabis laws and rules and its impact on Scarborough's marijuana business licensing ordinance, provide feedback to the town council from residents and businesses related to cannabis in the community, and make recommendations on improvements to the ordinance, including the zoning ordinance as it relates to marijuana businesses. In the past, I recommended a standing committee instead of an ad hoc committee. I believe a standing committee is the best approach and would be a useful tool for the town council moving forward. While the town should obtain legal advice from its attorney, having a committee dedicated to the industry could be an invaluable asset and take pressure off the town council and or the ordinance committee from having to stay on top of the evolving industry. As far as who should be on the committee, it should be made up of residents, landlords, and marijuana business owners. Residents do not necessarily need to be abutters, but it should be made up of residents who live in Scarborough full-time, not seasonal residents. The committee should be a balance between landlords, marijuana business owners, adult use and medical, and residents. I recognize Scarborough has a lot going on, including managing the pandemic. Unlike some boards and committees which do not appear to do much of anything, this committee would be active and could provide a nice bridge between community members, residents, and marijuana business owners included, and the town council as Scarborough navigates through its deep agenda in 2021. If you have any questions about Maine's marijuana industry, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you for considering my comments. Sincerely, John Burke.
So I think these were good. I think, one thing that is a really good point is that I do think there's a lot that's going to be happening with marijuana. And I feel like the ordinance committee, while they certainly could do it, is already a busy committee with a lot of things to look at, and they could be even looking at more things. And they only meet once a month, for an hour and a half, I think. So, if you were to have to bring some marijuana issues through the ordinance committee, and of course, we'd have to figure out how we were going to charge this committee, whether or not they could bring ordinance changes forward to the council directly or not, then, that could be of some value if there's going to be some potential ordinance changes. Because I do think it could end up being a very busy topic. And, we have Liam here. You're it's the part of your job you never thought you'd be the marijuana czar for the town. You officially are. So I would personally like to hear Liam's take on it. Not to put you on the spot. You can refuse if you want.
No, not at all. I'm always happy to share an opinion. I don't disagree. I think there's been obviously a lot of movement in this industry, in this area, on this topic over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, arguably since it was legalized for medical use in 2014, I believe. Maybe it was even earlier than that. I'll have to go back and read Councillor Johnson's history on cannabis in Maine. But I think that on that level, I think it makes sense. I think I guess what I would say is we obviously do have a lot going on right now. I think that the challenge as it stands now, my hope is that through the ongoing efforts, we're going to get a better handle on this in some regard, through either being more informed and better educated, or coming up with solutions that deal with the existing angst and frustration in the community. So I think if the committee was targeted to deal with again, limited to odor or the current constituent concerns, I think that would be, maybe not short-sighted, but I think that we have ongoing things that I'd like to see us see through and see where we end up. But the long-term vision around policy changes and statute changes and at both the state and federal level, I think that there's some merit to that. But I think it's a good idea. I'm not sure it. Again, I think my concern was just around that was going to solve the odor issue, and I think that may not be the best scope of work, but it certainly would be an issue and an element of it.
So I kind of, am I okay, Betsy?
Oh yeah, please go.
I struggle with this one. I've long advocated for legalized marijuana. It's not really about that. but at the same time, I don't want to encourage my kids to do it, right? And I feel like every time we say the word, we should replace it with stinky green stuff instead of marijuana, because repeatedly saying marijuana is normalizing it, making it acceptable. And while, yes, I think it should be, I think that we have to be conscious of the example that we set for the community. So I kind of want this, let's settle it down a little. Let's we're managing the best we can, with the regulations that have been put forth to date. 6 months, 9 months, maybe that's the time to kind of come up with a creative name for it that is not advertising, right? Is just, it's a legitimate business. It needs to be regulated. It is being regulated, and it's confusing. So it might make sense. I feel like we've been talking about it an awful lot as a council, and I'd rather stop for a little bit at the council level anyways.
Yeah, and that's kind of with the way the ordinance is right now, the way we have to say yes to all these licenses. I mean, I believe it's South Portland or whatever, like they don't do that. Like it's administrative approval for the license if you meet all the criteria. I mean, I think that's, something worth thinking about, John, because I agree with you. Like it gets a ton of attention right now at the council level. And we, that wouldn't go to this committee either. I don't think, for them to approve or not approve. I don't know. It might end up being administrative approval, but yeah, I totally agree with that. We'd want to think about it long and hard, because I think, we'd want to maybe have part of the charge. I feel like as a society where we are missing is the education and the feedback to young people, that maybe that would be part of their charge. Because, I have, a teen, who tells me it's no big deal, and, she doesn't do it, but it's safer than alcohol. And, well, wait a minute. I don't know that all these things are true. I'm telling you, the message kids are getting is it's frightening if we think about it. And a state I was reading somewhere, traffic accidents, have gone up. But when this was first coming about, I talked to the chief and I said, is there a test? Well, there's not a road test. It's not similar. So, if we had a committee, I'd want to, and I would assume the business owners would have a big interest in making sure this product, is safe as well as legal. So, I'd love to see a committee with a charge that focused a well-rounded, well-rounded approach to legal marijuana in town, because I think it's I think the way that it happened, if you look back at everything through ordinance, it was very, very adversarial. The people who didn't want it against the people who did want it. That was the same as the referendum that barely passed. Now that it's here, to find a roundtable way to meet concerns of business owners, as well as people who really still don't want it legal, but it is. And then those people like me who have real concerns about our youth. So I think the time will come for this committee. Maybe not right now, but I mean, these things take time too. John Anderson, perhaps you and I, since, we have the most interest in it, could kind of start drafting a charge. That takes a long time anyway. And, Councilor Clucci, maybe you'd agree to kind of, give feedback on it or something over a period of months, because we've all got a lot going on, but, you don't write a good charge overnight either, so.
That's right. So I think right now at the council level, there's not going to be a huge appetite for creating another committee. We've got a lot going on, but that doesn't mean you can't do some pre-work that, might benefit or make the process easier as we move down the road. And I'm supportive of that, with whether it's for this committee or anything else. I think looking ahead and trying to plan for the future is a big part of our job.
Yeah. And I think, like Liam said, there's a lot of good work underway right now that needs to get wrapped, I think. And then maybe once that work is wrapped up, especially around the odor issue and the consultant, and we have the next workshop, that might be a point, Betsy, to kind of say, okay, based on where we are, do we want to start drafting the charge? And then again, totally understanding all the other stuff happening right now, this might be more of a H2 topic after budget, that we bring a charge to the council. Again, for me, it's less about the current issue with the odor and more about the dynamics right now with the state and the policies and the laws that I think is going to require attention. And I would just want to make sure, because it's going to be so dynamic, that's what I anticipate, we have the right approach for how we're managing that. If that's at the staff level, then we can go that way if everybody feels like that's the way we want to leverage staff resources. Or again, if there's value in having a committee to help with that, similar to, like Betsy said, to the Shellfish Committee, then maybe that's where we go. So again, like, I'm still open to either direction. It's just there's going to be a need for it, and we just got to figure out where that need's going to be met. Is it going to be met through a committee, or is it going to be met through staff, which again might, Liam, you might need to actually hire a marijuana czar to help you with all the stuff that's going on. So just trying to anticipate what's likely going to come down the road.
Right. And, and honestly, like, the charge for the charter committee, I mean, I don't know how much easier you could get than something we had to do by charter, and we only meet once a month. And that, we took a number of months, and pandemic came in there, but we took a number of months to do that. So, it was something, we just kind of started looking at and thinking about what elements you'd want in it, composition and things like that. Even if we said we wanted to do it, we want to take it forward to council, I would still see it as a, 3 to 5 month process, even to get to that point. So, I mean, not that everything has to go that slow, but this isn't a thing that's burning that has to be done right now. And, so.
I think at that point, you might have general support too. You remember 3 counselors, none of them who are here, spent a year and a half living and breathing this topic. So it's understandable that they might want to take a bit of a reprieve right now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So this was only a discussion item. There wasn't really a vote that I thought we would take, unless anybody wants to make a motion on something about this, but I think it was a good opening salvo. Okay, and then typically we talk about other items. So I think, we've got a couple of items we might bring back to talk about at next meetings. And also, as you're thinking about something or you're reading policies, just because that's what you like to do, feel free to put an email out and say, hey, let's take a look at this. So as we put the agenda together for the next month. But I think we did want to talk about future meetings and date and time, because our Counselor Anderson is now an international employee. Global.
Congratulations, John.
Yeah.
And he's got to have his warnings. Meet that. I do not have a huge preference. I kind of, maybe if deciding tonight, one of the things, I don't know if this drives you guys crazy, but finance is kind of nice because it's kind of got its own week. So I guess there's 2 thoughts. Sometimes people like everything in one week. I kind of like it spread out a little more than, communications and this and this and this. So we kind of had a little niche there where we were the second week, which was kind of nice because, a lot of people grabbed the first week and they have their meetings in the first week or something like that. So is there a day or time that we could at least target that works better? And then Tody and I could take a look at kind of what's where and make some suggestions based on day and time that maybe doesn't work and day and time that does work.
I'd say 2 to 4. Those hours are usually a little more difficult for me than others. And maybe 8 to 10 in the morning is a little bit difficult too. But outside of that window, I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer after 4 if we can.
Okay.
Only because it's just easier and more predictable for work.
And then day of the week, probably everybody's week is so different. Probably doesn't not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty flexible. I think 4 o'clock is pretty it's early enough before other meetings take over in the evening. I know John and I, at least in the near term, we're meeting bi-weekly on Tuesdays, I think, for the downtown. So if we could avoid Tuesdays, I think that would be good.
Yeah, that's what you get into at the afternoon. We gotta avoid Tuesdays. We gotta avoid Wednesdays. Charter's meeting on Thursday now. So when you
Well, and
start,
if the darn finance committee meetings were to go 2 hours, I'd say let's just piggyback.
Yeah.
on what? On finance?
Yeah, if we could keep those to an hour, but I don't know that that's realistic in the next couple of months.
I try to keep these under an hour because it's not earth shattering what we're working on, so I try, that's my goal always for these is to keep them under an hour, but that's completely different from having to deal with finance issues or something like that. So
So John, help me remind me, is the finance committee it's Wednesday at 4.
It's the fourth Wednesday of the month. At 4.
How do we feel about and council meets the 1st and 3rd? Is that right?
Yep.
So how do we feel about the second Wednesday of the month at 4?
There you go. Great.
That works for me.
Keeping it easy is really good for me.
Yeah.
Right. Because I know that we have.
Tony, does that work with you?
I'll make it if it doesn't.
So 4 to 5 or 4 to 6 on the second Wednesday.
yeah, 4 to 5.
And then we can see each other every week.
Yeah,
There we go.
we start having 2-hour rules and policies meetings. You can fire me. How about that?
Be careful.
Yeah. So, yeah, unless some big hot topic comes up, like when they had to deal with the social media stuff, I guess that was hot, but mostly the topics are not too hot. Right. Well, so we more or less though stuck to the second week, which is what we were, and now we're the second week. So that would mean we're good. We don't have a catch-up meeting or really not missing anything. So the March to move to March, I think is good. And that's about a month from now. So does anyone have anything else or? Okay.
Well, I guess one thing we didn't specify with our goals this year was we have a policy for how the tax rate is going to be displayed or depicted in the budget book. And that practice, because of the reval doesn't necessarily provide the result that you're looking for. I guess, I don't know if we want to bring that policy back up for discussion.
Let's put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. Well, somebody want to call for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
I'm a yes. Counselor Clucci,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson.
Yes.
All right. Thanks very much. Bye.